Common sense says it's easy to spot a knockoff, but these days we're getting more and more convincing, especially on e-commerce sites like Amazon. Wirecutter ordered counterfeit goods and their authentic counterparts off Amazon, and even experts could barely tell the difference. To save you the trouble of accidentally ordering an Abibas instead of an Adidas, here are tips for spotting online counterfeiters. When you're at the flea market and spot a Supreme hat for $10 instead of the usual $150 price tag, it's pretty obvious that it's a fake. However, online counterfeiters often use realistic prices to fool people into thinking their products are legit. Ganda Sufivarakam writes about these scams for Wirecutter and found that even internet-savvy consumers fall for this myth.
I think counterfeiters are aware that people think of price as an authenticity signal. There was one Atlantic writer who wrote about buying a fake Canada Goose jacket from Amazon for the full price of $925. You might look at a $50 Canada Goose jacket and be like, that's definitely fake. But you see the $925 and you're like, well, maybe it's real. And the problem is that when you're on a site that you trust and you're like, I shop here for everything, don't look at price, you might be fooled.
If a product ships within 1 to 2 days from the US, many people figure it's authentic. In reality, these products might actually be coming from overseas.
I think if you saw that something was going to take 5 to 6 weeks to ship, you might assume that it was coming from overseas and it's more likely to be fake. Today, what these third-party sellers can do is they can participate in Fulfilled by Amazon. Even if that stuff took 6 weeks to come by boat to a warehouse, it can take 1 day to ship to you on Prime. So product reviews can definitely be gamed. There are whole Facebook groups dedicated to hiring people to write good reviews. They get sent free stuff and then they write a good review and they might get extra payment on top of that. There's the product rating, which is on the page that you're buying something from. And then there's the seller rating, which tells you what customers have experienced with sellers.
Even legit product reviews are hard to parse, especially because Amazon's star system isn't simply an average of reviews. It's actually an algorithm that gives more weight to recent reviews or verified purchases, so fake or paid-for reviews frequently skew the results. To avoid this, we advise looking at seller ratings, which are separate from product ratings. You can also take a look at the storefront to see what other kinds of merchandise they sell. This shop sells knockoff of gloves and also crab hats, Christmas decor, and massage chairs, so I know to think twice before buying from them. Keep in mind that Amazon often removes negative reviews about shipping or packaging if they were the ones who fulfilled it. Apparel and accessories accounted for 15% of seizures by Customs and Border Patrol, but it's not just the fake Nikes and Hermes in downtown alleys anymore. Counterfeiters are also notorious for selling low-cost items like fake consumer electronics, pharmaceuticals, personal care products, and cosmetics.
One of the sources I talked to said, if you can make $1, somebody's counterfeiting it.
Amazon's product images don't always reflect what you get. Third-party sellers may be jumping on a listing with existing photos or using stolen photos on a brand new listing. This makes it impossible to judge a product's authenticity just from the page photo. Sometimes fake packaging is riddled with spelling errors and shoddy graphic design, but some fake packaging is pretty convincing. And without the real packaging for comparison, it's pretty hard to tell. We found a package for a counterfeit UGG glove that was nearly identical to the real thing. In plot twist, the real package had a spelling error.
I think a lot of people would be surprised that over half of the items that shipped were actually sold by third-party sellers, not Amazon. There are a lot of legitimate third-party sellers, but there are a lot of third-party sellers that you wouldn't trust.
You can avoid third-party sellers altogether by limiting your search results to products sold directly from Amazon.com. But if you use this approach, remember 2 things. First, this filter might eliminate quality results. Yeti, for example, states on their FAQ that products on Amazon are sold directly by Yeti Authorized. Second, be aware that filtering by fulfilled through Amazon Prime does not mean a product is actually sold by Amazon. Although you can usually find the seller info on the right side of the page directly below the buy button, sometimes it moves around the product page. For this Nintendo Switch Pro controller, it was in the middle of the buy box. and for the shampoo, it was in the middle of the page. To avoid playing the world's most frustrating game of Where's Waldo, try browsing Amazon on your phone or tablet. It's easier to locate the seller info. It's always in the same place on the mobile layout. Also, be wary of Amazon's buy it again and subscribe and save features, because if the original seller is sold out, Amazon will automatically select another third-party seller. We've come to depend on sites like Amazon for quick, reliable service and often don't think twice about adding something to the cart and checking out. But sometimes it's worth scrutinizing the page a bit more. Check out the links in the description for more tips on how to avoid those scammers. You know, I should have acted like Shaq. I feel like I do a good Shaq.
Oh my god, yes, you're Shaq.
This is Big Diesel. You know what I'm talking about? Big Diesel. And my slam dunk.